Hello and welcome to Comedy Slab. I'm Adrian Lacey. Just before we start, yes, I am Adrian Lacey, that much is true. I'm in the Deep South. Shane O'Connor is my sparring partner in the West Midlands. He's also a musician. You claim to be a bass player, is that right?
Well, I do a little bit.
Okay. We're talking a little bit. Have you ever listened to the bass part in our opening and closing signature tune?
I can't think what it sounds like.
Let's have a listen again.
Okay.
And I think I could do this bass part. I haven't got time to do my boy learning the bass guitar joke, or did I do it on a previous slab?
I think I might have done it. It doesn't ring a bell. Or a bass.
Anyway, another time. Well, hey. But I reckon I could play that tune. I mean, it's on one note, isn't it?
You couldn't, could you?
Oh, you go. Like, typical bassist. Try and make it sound difficult.
No, go on then, get your bass guitar out.
I've got an acoustic. It was in tune when I bought it.
Well, was that the opening chord to A Hard Day's Night?
Very nearly. That was George. No, I was going to say George Best. That was going to be a Pete Best joke, but that doesn't work.
Did you know if you go on the internet, there's a huge debate about what that chord is, and you just feel like screaming in capital letters, typing, "Just get a life, the lot of you! What's the matter with you?" But I always used to think, whenever I heard that, whenever I played that tune, and working in local radio, we played that a lot, didn't we? You played Beatles stuff a lot, anyway.
The obvious ones.
I always thought it sounded like George Harrison. You know those big steps that leaded down to the live room? That led down to the live room. in Abbey Road.
You've been drinking.
Well, I've had a drop off so far. Do you know what I mean? The steps that led down to the live room in Abbey Road, so from the control room down, there's a set of steps.
Okay, if you say so. I haven't been there, but yeah.
And I always imagined George throwing his guitar off the top of those steps, and that's the as it hit the bottom. That was the chord.
It sounds like that guitar's already had that hurling incident. Anyway, we digress as we always do. If this is your first slab, special warm welcome. If it's your multiple slab, and we're up to 20-something now, thank you for your loyalty.
And if it's your last slab, we are so sorry.
We are indeed. You're only as good as your last show. Or hang on, you're not very good. This is your last show. That's what my last boss said to me in radio. But the point of calling it the Comedy Slab for the uninitiated is that we put a different comedy show, be it TV, radio, podcast, whatever, on the slab, the notional slab each week.
Under the spotlight.
Under the spotlight.
By the side of the wardrobe.
By the light of the silvery moon. I don't know.
Oh, what a beautiful picture that is. That's just conjured up some beautiful images in my mind of a wardrobe by the light of the silvery moon.
Could you see the Lion and the Witch?
In a morgue.
In a morgue, you weirdo. Can I finish this explanation?
Yeah, go on, that's good.
As we're now 3 minutes plus into the show. And then we make our own incisions on said slab into said comedy, and we rate it, and we see what we make of it. And at the end of the show, we each give a star rating out of 5, add it up to 10, and see what we make of it. And, of course, you can play along in your own time wherever you're listening to us, and make your own decision and judgment on said show.
Yeah, in fact, all the way through the podcast, at strategic points, we'll leave a little gap where you can shout out loud, "Are you kidding me? I thought it was brilliant."
Now, that gap is my brain working very slowly because I've been up since 3 this morning. What have you dropped? Is that your tin leg?
I just kicked the bucket. It's quite appropriate on the Comedy Slab.
Absolutely. But we ought to get through this show at least. This week's show, it's a radio show. It's BBC Radio 4. You'll be familiar, if you're in the UK, with BBC Sounds, as we must now call what was previously the BBC iPlayer radio app. So it is available as we speak on BBC Sounds.
Have we got time to take a pit stop and just talk about that for a second? Because you might know something that I don't.
Try me.
I clicked on, you sent me the link, and I clicked on that. Now, which way around was it? You sent me a link, and it was either on the old iPlayer.
The old. Sorry, you're going into your Wogan impersonation.
The old iPlayer. I sound like a pirate then. iPlayer.
You did.
It was one or the other, but when I clicked on it, it took me through to the other one, and I thought, well, what was the point of that?
Right.
I can't remember which way around it was.
I think it's because I have to be straight with our audience now, particularly new listeners. If you didn't hear the previous show where I suggested people sort of come onto the iPlayer radio app. It's got more functionality still.
Yeah, you don't trust new things, do you? You don't like change.
Well, there is that, but I have to whisper because just to reveal to those not aware, I do some work for Auntie BBC, and the Beeb is pushing the sounds thing, but the reality is I've heard on a BBC radio show, so it must be true, that full functionality on the Sounds app, which will eventually be closed, the iPlayer will be closed down, iPlayer Radio will be closed down, but the Sounds app hasn't quite got the full functionality yet, but should be coming in the first half of 2019.
It's a bit like buying a car and going, well, we're expecting the wheels sometime in the summer, so if you could just sit on the forecourt, we'll be with you as soon as we possibly can.
You nearly said Corfort.
The Corfort.
You have been drinking.
It was
cooking sherry.
It was Malice a Corthort. Hang on a second.
I think I've only got three thought at the moment. What's that?
Hang on a second.
I'm hoping this will become obvious.
The wheels on the podcast go round and round. Right, we're ready. Okay.
You're
Shall we start?
definitely under the affluence of Inca Hole. I protest. Right, yes. So the show is called, a radio show, Geoff Norcott, right-leaning but well-meaning. Geoff Norcott is a stand-up act. So available as we speak on the BBC Sounds app. I'm sure you'll find loads of other Geoff Norcott material in various digital caverns across the world. He's been going since 2001, so very experienced stand-up. His backstory is interesting. He has two disabled parents. He gets into the disability thing as part of this show. And by the way, I should say that each week we hear 3 audio clips from whichever show we're analysing, and then we set homework for the next week's show. So all that to look forward to. In fact, without further ado, and we've already had quite an ado, I'm sure you'll agree, we are going to hear the first clip, which is right from the top of the show. We don't normally do this. We try and find sort of 3, almost I would call them plot points, for 3-act dramas. And even a lot of comedies, I would say, fall into sort of 3 acts. We try and set up in clip 1, we try and have the sort of the development of the theme, clip 2, and a sort of resolution without giving everything away, because it's not the very end.
And then we ruin it for everyone in clip 3.
Yeah, basically we should call this podcast Comedy Spoiler, because that's what we do. But
so this is clip 3. This is the bit where he dies. Right at the end.
Fortunately, I think you're going to die the way it's going, but Geoff Norcott doesn't die in this show. Not even in the metaphorical sense in which some comedians say they die when they haven't had a good gig. I think you can hear right from the top, from the audience reaction, he's having a very good gig. He walks on to love, as Jimmy Tarbuck said of Eric Morecambe. And this is right at the top. So he's obviously hit the ground running. And I'll let him do a setup. So about a minute of this, and then we'll have a little cogitate and talk about it. So here's Geoff right at the top of his show.
My show is called Geoff Norcott, right-leaning but well-meaning. Now, I am aware that in the current climate, even that is slightly contentious to some. I did think of going for something slightly less incendiary, like I love shooting lions in the face, or 10 things I love about the DUP. But right-leaning but well-meaning is the show. I am right of centre, I vote Conservative. It might take people by surprise, the fact that I vote Conservative. I also voted Leave, and that might come as slightly less of a surprise, I suspect. Yeah. Let's be honest, I look like an electrician's wandered on stage. And for the benefit of radio, I sound like an electrician has wandered on stage. I got that title from, I did an Edinburgh show the other year, and I overheard a woman who was kindly recommending my show to another lady. And then she mentioned that I voted Conservative, and the woman balked slightly. And she said, oh no, he's right-leaning, but well-meaning. I thought, it's interesting that she had to add that, isn't it? It's like saying, from London, but friendly.
Curiously, all the rest of us who are not from London actually use that term. He's from London, but friendly.
I'll have you know, I was born in London, and I take deep offence to that. But because I'm from London, I've got no real sensitivity.
And we all know what we mean when we say it, except for you lot who are in London.
Well, we're a nation unto ourselves, so we don't need to really know.
Before we go any further with this, I've got to ask the question, because I know there's one at the end which is horrendously obvious, but I kind of felt like I wasn't hearing the whole thing right from the very start. I thought the editing wasn't great. There's a real howler of an edit right at the end. I don't know if you picked up on that one.
I might have to work with this person, so I couldn't possibly comment. I did actually notice a slightly bum edit in that clip we just heard.
Yeah, and the only reason I say that is not for any technical geeky reason, but just because I kind of felt that was I listening to all of it, what was cut out, your kind of mind starts to wander. I was watching Porridge the other night on the channel yesterday, and they cut out a scene between Fletcher and McLaren,
right?
Where Fletcher kicks McLaren into his cell and grabs him round the neck and threatens him or whatever.
You don't mean Mackay? Do you mean McLaren?
No, McLaren. McLaren, right. The Scottish
guy. Which
guy.
one's McLaren? Okay.
The hard man. He was like the McLaren. You're all right, Fletch. Him. That is. There's a
Gosh, it's about 30 years since I watched the show, but okay.
Oh, okay. But anyway, but they cut it out, and it was like after 10 o'clock at night, and I thought, why would you cut that out? And that kind of bugs me when I hear things, and I know, or I get the feeling that there's something missing. I kind of think, that's just going to bug me now, because I want to know. I had to go and watch my copy of it to figure out what they cut out, to realise what they'd done. And I still couldn't.
I'm not excusing it. I'm guessing it was for commercials and to make room for a commercial break and still keep it in a half-hour slot. But that is unforgivable. The whole scene didn't
make sense, because he kicked him into the cell, and the next thing he's coming out with some tobacco. It was
and there's all these young kids saying
he just bounced off and grabbed a tin of tobacco on the way out.
I'm glad you could laugh about it, but there's loads of kids thinking, the writing was really rubbish in those days, wasn't it?
Yeah. They took all the violence out and left the fags in, which kind of made me think it was a bit weird. But anyway, back to my point with Geoff Norcott, was that I kind of then, right from out the gates, I'm thinking, this is chopped about then, is it? Or what? And then you kind of end up listening for it then, don't you?
I tried not to, but I know that effect. A lot of the time, I'm in a temporary accommodation without access to full quality, full bandwidth loudspeakers.
Yes.
I'm quite often just listening on the old phone, but loads of people do these days. It's a real shame, considering what a sound geek I am, but that's where we are. So I have missed some of these subtleties. So perhaps I've had a better experience from that point of view. Do I take it then? We'd normally get a headline from each other. The person whose homework it was to study the comedy each week gets to give a sort of headline in a few words what they made of it. It's not sounding over wonderful from you.
No, my headline will be Geoff Cott, meaning...
No, what?
Because it's so heavily edited.
Oh...
I kind of, do you know, it drove me absolutely bonkers, because we normally listen through twice, don't we? So we've kind of both got into this thing where we listen for pleasure, and what I do, I listen for pleasure, and then I write the notes on the second time round. And all through both of those runs and any subsequent listens, I'm thinking, God, he reminds me of somebody. He sounds like somebody else. And then it only occurred to me when you played the clip who it was, and it was a guy we used to work with. Well, I don't know if you worked with him, actually.
Well, I'm intrigued now.
And I can't even...
you and I met, just for the sake of recap for those not aware, at BBC Radio Derby.
And I've just forgotten his name. He was Johnny somebody.
Johnny.
He was a very...
Not Johnny Big Potatoes.
Not Johnny...
I've worked with a lot of them over the years.
Or as his stage name had it, Johnny Rockin' Spuds. No, he was Johnny... Oh, blimey.
Did you say the vicar, a rocking vicar?
No, he was very religious. He was, and he used to go into coffee shops and do these, like kind of preaching sort of things. Until they threw him out. Said, "Oh, here's your cappuccino." No, he was doing it. It was legit. He'd go and book the place. Oh, really? Johnny, he'd been in prison He turned his life around. He's one of these
Again,
kind of guys.
called Johnny, been in prison. I've got so many friends that could be.
I was going to say, God, I can't. He was bald or he shaved his head.
Well, which was it? We have to decide.
I don't know.
Follicles
I
or
never
no
knew him that
follicles?
well. That's a hell of a question to ask. Anyway, it didn't matter who it was, but he reminded me.
Never mind the follicles.
So it wasn't somebody. I always thought it was somebody famous or another comedian that his voice reminded me of, but it wasn't. It was this bloke that I knew, and you obviously didn't.
Obviously, yeah. No, I think I made that clear now. I haven't a clue who you're talking about.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. An entertaining digression, but
Yeah.
a digression nonetheless.
Thank you. So don't get a point for that.
Not really, because you still haven't fully, apart from doing some joke about editing, we don't really know, apart from the general tone we're getting. What do you make of the material performance in a nutshell?
Well, the fact that he's right-leaning as opposed to 98% of comedians who are left-leaning seems to be in this country. It is pretty biased in that way, isn't it?
It is.
You would kind of think, oh, what a relief. But I ended up walking away, and no disrespect to the material, but I ended up walking away thinking, God, I really hate political material.
Right, okay.
That's where I was. But I, as a comedian, I thought he was okay. But the fact that he was right-leaning, it doesn't make it any, because he still makes the same old jokes about Trump and Brexit and all the other. It's just, and Theresa May or what, you know what I mean? It's that it doesn't. It's same meat, different gravy.
By the time people are listening to this, they might say, Theresa who?
I think they do now, probably. In fact,
Well, don't jinx it even more for her. Yeah. Right, okay.
What about? Whoa, hang on. What about you? You can't go.
Hang on, I'm asking the questions.
Are you talking to me, sir? And I thought you was addressing an horse. Yeah, go on.
Are you talking to me or chewing a brick? Because either way, you're going to get your teeth mashed in. Sorry,
what about
the Londoner in me?
headline?
I can't help it. No, can I just ask you where you put yourself? This is very cheeky, but you don't have to answer. But where would you place yourself on the political spectrum before I answer your question?
God, I don't know. I mean, if you'd have asked me 20 years ago, it'd probably be different. I mean, I like to think somewhere in the centre, but probably more right of centre than left of centre. I would have thought. I mean, definitely not left of centre the way the left is now, because I'm a great believer in free speech and things like that, and I don't think a lot of what comes out of the left promotes free speech. So I would say kind of right of centre, I suppose, really. I mean, I'd like to think that I'm kind of straight down the middle, but I don't know.
Straight geezer. Well, if we wound back to Blair times, not Corbyn times, would that change your answer if I've been asking you?
Far right. If you said Gordon Brown, I think he's one of the worst prime ministers we've ever had, and he's up against some pretty stiff competition, not least by Theresa May. I mean, this is the point: is that I kind of have the same disdain for. Didn't I say to you recently? I just finished reading Ken Clarke's autobiography, and came away from that realising that politicians, I would say pretty wholeheartedly, the majority of politicians are in it for themselves. I mean, I think you have to be like that to want to do that in the first place. But everything you read from Ken Clarke's book is all about him. He's the centre of his own universe. And I find it quite sort of disillusioning, really. But so along the parties, I've got no time for any of them. I mean, I really haven't got time for any of them. Okay,
let's not spend any more time on politics more than we need to then in this show.
Why did you ask? Because, I mean, you're a lefty, aren't you? I mean, everybody knows that.
Yeah, although, yes, I mean, disillusioned in politics, but also disillusioned with the left in its current form. And also, no one's got the magic pill for, the society's ills anywhere.
No.
And
despite them all pretending that they have.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, anyone coming in has got to manage a capitalist economy, whatever their ideals might be.
See, now
you can't get around that.
I like a capitalist economy, but
we're going off on one here.
But I'm probably the least capitalist person I know. I mean, I'm one of the few people who doesn't go spending mad at Christmas.
Oh, Oh,
you know.
we wish I hadn't bought you that really expensive present then.
Yeah, I bet you do. But the capitalist economy, I think is a good thing because, well, you know, Venezuela is a good example as to why it's a good thing.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about whether capitalism is good or bad.
No, nobody wants to talk about politics when you mention Venezuela. They all go, anyway, moving on.
Oh, no. I'd be happy to talk about it. I was never a fan. I think Ken Livingstone should be answering questions as, you know, sourcing diesel fuel from Venezuela for London buses. But hey, that's another show, which perhaps we should do a political slab. But you'd probably throw it at the politicians.
But
so,
I just always wanted to know with him how they managed to drive the buses there to fill them up in the first place. That was amazing. But
that's a lot of miles used up, isn't it? Right.
Miles.
My headline. Here's me. See, maybe I've learned a lesson here. I'm trying to choose comedies every now and again to please you. And I should just say, blow it. I'll just choose a comedy to please me. But it did please me anyway. I do like Geoff Norcott. I didn't find it overly political. Yeah, you could say, obviously, the title of the show, and he's branded himself that way. I think that's just a wise move with the BBC, as you say. You know, 98% left-leaning comedians. I did hear a show.
Well, it hardly redresses the balance, does it? I mean,
well, you know, we need another 50 Geoff Norcotts, don't we? Yeah. We've talked about Andrew Lawrence, but Andrew Lawrence, I've looked him up. He doesn't particularly describe himself as political. He got into a Twitter storm, and I think it's got blown out of all proportion. He's certainly not a lefty, but and I can't remember the details now. I haven't got it in front of me. But so yeah, Geoff has pretty much got the field to himself, and good on him. But I just think I love stand-up. I hope you would say the same for yourself.
Yeah, one of my points
you
I
like
wanted to
more
ask
comedy
you,
dramas and sitcoms and things. Sorry.
No, one of the points I was going to ask you, and I think we touched on this on one of the other ones, and I can't remember who it was now, was the thing that I didn't like about Geoff's format, and you know, I get it. I know they're trying to do something different, and they're trying to be a little creative and innovative. But you know, like the kind of pseudo sketchy bits in between with the funny voices,
which we're about to hear in clip 2 in a moment.
Yeah, I didn't. That didn't work for, and I'll tell you why it didn't work for me. There was one of them where one of his supporting actors. I think it was Leanne Everett, who was a strange choice because she's, from all accounts I can gather, is a straight actress. But there you go. But Leanne Everett actually played 2 parts and didn't vary the voice at all. And you kind of thought, oh, this is really lazy. Why, you know, come on, BBC or whoever it is, can't they spring for another actor, or can't they rewrite it so she doesn't have 2 parts and she's kind of trying to pretend to be, I think it was the daughter and something else. I can't remember what it was now. But you know what I mean? Right. And I'm not a fan of sketches on the cheap, I think is the best way I can describe it.
I think there's a general nervousness in TV and radio across the piece, and has been for literally decades, long as I can remember, about just putting straight stand-up on. I mean, it's okay, you can immediately think of exceptions like Live at the Apollo.
Yeah.
But if you think, and that only really came about, we were talking about Addison Cresswell, who was the guy behind Off the Curb Productions, which made that. Anyway, he was the big guru, the agent, no longer with us, who managed Jack D and so on and so forth. Very, very big names. He took... I think it might have even been his phrase. He took comedy from the club to the stadium. So massively loved, of course, by people, on his roster. He did them massive favours. Not universally loved, but hey. But I can remember, I mean, like when Paul Merton first hit the big time, Channel 4... You don't have to remember the first Paul Merton Channel 4 show, do you? I mean, a long time ago. No, where they put him.
If you said it, I might remember it, but...
They put him in a newsagent's kiosk in a station.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it, because I'd spotted Paul Martin as he was. I go so far back with his career and my own life. He had to change his name for equity reasons. There was another Paul Martin already in Equity. Which I think is iniquitous. No, it doesn't work. Moving on. Anyway, no, don't patronise me. It makes it worse.
I'm just trying to get my equity card, sorry.
Yeah, well, don't give up evening job.
Yeah.
The paper round. Where was I going with that? Oh, yeah.
But he died on it.
I couldn't believe the difference between me seeing him in a sweaty comedy store where he stormed it on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And on Channel 4, he's in a blooming newsagent's kiosk. And there was some surreal thing about a fish or dolphin or something.
Yes,
An animated character. I haven't seen it in 30 plus years. And I just thought, well, just put a mic in front of the guy, put an audience there, call it comedy, put him in a comedy club and put a couple of cameras on it, you know. You don't need to sit around for hours having conferences with script writers and exec producers saying, how are we going to model, how are we going to fashion him for the TV screen? Just put him up there on stage where he's best.
I've always felt he struggled with format and form. I told you, didn't I? I got into a row with him once in an interview about him doing Galton and Simpson scripts.
Oh, that's ringing vague bells.
You know, and I always kind of felt that he had a bit of a conflict, but with sort of form and with format, and that he never really kind of felt his niche apart from "Have I Got News for You," which is a well flogged equine, isn't it now? I think by everybody's standard. You said you promised me a clip a while ago, and you still haven't.
I did. Sorry. Can I just? I'm going to set the record straight, particularly before Paul Mann gets on to his lawyers. I'm not blaming Paul for the Channel 4 thing. I personally, it's only a hunch, but I doubt that he said, can you put me in a newsagent's? He probably was asking, can you put me in a club and turn the cameras over? Anyway, so I don't know. So, yes, clip 2 is an example of one of these sketches. And for the record, not just because I worry about working at the Beeb, I do genuinely think Leanne Everett is very good in this sketch.
I just thought, you know, with all the comedy actresses there, I just thought it was weird that they chose somebody who was predominantly a straight actor. That was all.
But she delivered. I wouldn't have any qualms about that. Anyway, but loads of actors are able to do both, and there's the old typecasting thing. Give them a break. Give them a little breath of fresh air, try something new. Anyway, so we hear Leanne here playing the part of Geoff Norcott's mother. You remember Geoff Norcott we talked about hours ago? He was the subject of this slab. The other member of the Trinity with Geoff and Leanne is Barry Castanola, who also gets a credit for additional material in the show, which may or may not include this next sketch. So just to very quickly set it up, Geoff has set it up himself in the preamble to this sketch, saying how his mum could run rings round the benefits workers, you know, the civil servants, local government workers who interview at the job centre or whatever, or the benefits office. And here is Leanne as Geoff's mum, holding her own, I think you'll agree.
Mrs. Norcott, you're claiming council tax discount, but we believe there is a man living with you. Is that accurate?
What business is it of yours?
Just an official question.
You want to know if I got a bloke?
In effect, yes.
Sorry, love, you're not my type.
I didn't mean it like that.
They all say that when you knock 'em back.
Are you cohabiting?
What kind of question's that?
You can't answer a question with a question.
Why not?
Oh, I'm getting frustrated.
Not surprised.
I cannot allow you to leave without official confirmation of your relationship status.
This is sexual harassment.
That's not even a thing.
Trust me, love, it will be.
Yeah, again, it's not the best part of his work, is it? That the sketch thing. I mean, personally, it's like you say, it's probably a production decision somewhere, but it's not. I didn't feel that it needed it. I was quite enjoying him in the same way, and I daren't mention it because you'll just say that I've got a thing for her. Was it Sarah Alexander that we did? It's not Sarah.
It's about time you remembered her name if you're going to have a thing for her. Sarah Kendall, the Australian comedian, actress.
And like, she just did it on her own, didn't she? Wasn't hers just stand up, just her voice?
I'm not 100% sure.
Now I've said it. I'm not so
No, I've
confident.
got a feeling there were inserts, as we call them in the trade.
Maybe this is the vogue. I mean, I do really get the feeling at Radio 4 that there is a crisis of the management team understanding comedy. I don't. There's some kind of mismatch going on there that has been for quite a while. So maybe it's something to do with that. I don't know, but yeah, I didn't feel that they didn't kind of set my world on fire. Did you? You like that? You like the sketch?
I didn't mind it, but I think if they hadn't been there, I wouldn't be thinking, "Oh, blimey, this Geoff Norcott's going on a bit, isn't he?"
Yeah.
Because what's half an hour? If you go to a comedy club, you're seeing 2 hours of comedy. Well, maybe hour and a half spread over three sections with 2 intermissions or whatever it is. A proper comedy night. So what is actually 28, 29 minutes is nothing really.
Yeah.
Especially, I think Geoff is a real craftsman. Those sketches, they don't offend me, and I enjoyed them as they were there. But as I say, I wouldn't have missed them. Shall we fast forward to clip 3 since we took so long to get going? I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil this clip, despite what you said. Well, because of what you said earlier, that we are inclined even to spoil clips. So basically, Geoff has been doing most of the show minus those little sketchy poos. And this is pretty much towards the end of the show, so I'll let him do the talking.
There is a point in most shows where, like the theatre, they'd like to send you out on a positive note, send you out into the streets singing and dancing. So Brexit. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Now, I should say, despite being a Leave voter, I'm not adversarial. I want to build bridges. Admittedly, not to Calais, but I do want to build bridges. And I do feel in company like this that I want to say I voted Leave, but I'm not a racist. But you know what? Some Remainer arguments sounded racist to me.
But Geoff, if we leave the EU, who's going to come and do all the low-paid menial work?
Who's going to pick the strawberries or work at Pret?
Oh, wow, didn't realise that was what the EU was there for, was to supply you with economic Oompa Loompas. I'm sorry for messing up your childcare plans. Maybe you just have to pay the going rate.
And that was the point at which I audibly groaned, because I kind of, in my own mind, I kind of thought, if he's going to be right-leaning, well-meaning, that we're not going to have... the writing was on the wall, I suppose. He did a Trump gag earlier, and I forget what it was now, but I remember on my notes, and I put down, it was kind of like a backhanded left-wing Trump joke. And you kind of think, oh, God, and then not least I don't find the whole situation funny, Brexit. It's like every possible permutation has been done and is so obvious to me now, and I just kind of think, I wouldn't thank anybody for a Brexit joke, but in this particular case,
hang on a minute. You don't want me to do my Brexit gag then? Spent ages on that. Can I just say, before we get sued, you see, I do fret about the legal things, but it's only decent to say the show, I should have said this earlier, produced by Caroline Raphael, and it's a peer production for BBC Radio 4. That's the legal stuff sorted.
I went to look up peer productions, and it was only because, and I thought it was like they'd recorded it in the House of Lords, so they got an office there, but it's actually PIER, isn't it, because they're in Brighton.
Boom, boom.
Nothing gets past me. I was going, oh yeah, because they're based in Brighton. That's why they're peer productions.
I love it. Love it.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
That wouldn't be. You don't think it was at Mark Radcliffe's venue? I suppose they've got loads of venues, or a number of venues.
Oh, a comedian.
Comedy,
in Brighton. I'd tell you what was interesting. You mentioned Barry Castanola, and also Stephen Grant was involved.
Yes.
They're both stand-ups in their own right, aren't they?
Are they? Oh, okay, right.
And it's quite interesting because they both kind of, I felt, I'd looked them up and saw some work that they'd done on YouTube, and they kind of both a bit Ben Elton-y in a way, like a kind
yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, kind of a toned down Ben Elton sort of thing. And I couldn't actually find any of their material, but it was just them, both of them, interestingly enough, dealing with hecklers, which...
That's all they got on YouTube?
Yeah, it was all I could find anyway. Maybe I didn't look for long and hard enough. I don't know.
I was just thinking, what would a toned down Ben Elton be? It's actually Ben Elton now. He's toned himself down.
He's out on tour, isn't he? He's off again. He's going out on tour.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm good on him. As you know, I never name drop, but I did work on The Man from Auntie. I could go off on one, but yeah, we've already spent too long digressing. Another time. Another place. I actually feel the need for Brexit jokes. I mean, I am a Brexit-aholic, for all the straight broadcasting, I can't get enough of it. I'm lapping it up in some really perverse way. I know that is strange, but I'm not completely alone in this. But I do work with a lot of people in BBC News, so they're paid to be Brexit addicts. But what I don't hear
as well, though, aren't they? That's the other thing.
Oh, it's so easy, isn't it?
No, they are. Though. I mean, when
an
people
organisation with Andrew Neil presenting.
"Oh
are you
Christ!" So
kidding
you
me?
got Andrew Neil. That's one person, and the rest of them.
Hang on, I am not the BBC. I'm not here speaking for the BBC.
I know how left-wing
Let's not
the BBC
go down that
is.
particular.
I mean, there's no question about it.
I can point you to plenty of people who are right-leaning, whether or not they're well-meaning.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, you say, okay, I understand if you've had enough of the news coverage of it. Are you saying you've had too much in the way of humorous references to Brexit? Because I don't think there's enough of those about. Healing, and
both of those really, and because I don't find them funny. I mean, I don't. I mean, they're all pretty obvious in terms of. I've not heard anything. Oh, that's original. Although, did he come up with one? I can't remember now. I know. I wrote in some of the.
Well, he said he wanted to build bridges, but not to Calais, obviously.
Yeah,
I found it. I find it very healing. I think we desperately need comedy and comedy about Brexit, but not along partisan lines.
The one I really laughed at was the when he was going on about the bus. I thought that was just.
Well, it's a coach.
The 350 minutes of the NHS, and he said on the side of the bus, and he said, and we know it wasn't a bus, it was a coach. That's you. That's you showing your.
Oh yeah, your privileged background, or whatever. Yeah,
which I did think
you've never got on public transport.
Yeah, there was that, and he said about all the people that are in Spain are like our dad's army. And he said you can interrogate them for as much as you like because they'll never learn the language. I thought those were quite funny.
You see, they're good. Okay.
There were a couple of gags in it. But yeah, I mean, the whole Brexit thing, I mean, like I say, I think it's the most embarrassing episode in our generation.
But that makes the humour all the more necessary for me. Obviously, it doesn't work for you, but I think it's vital to... especially I hate the phrase going forward, I was about to use it. In the future, if we ever get to the other side of this, it is a national humiliation, disgrace, etc., etc., or however you read it. I mean, insert whatever, because I like Geoff Norcott, I would like to build bridges in this particular forum. I'll argue blue over a pint, perhaps, but that's not for this place. But I think it's the best hope we've got for healing the wounds is comedy and laughter. I mean, I think that's why we laugh as human beings.
I think that's because it comes from your political perspective, doesn't it? I think is why you can't get enough of it. And if you don't come from that political perspective, it just sounds like another...
I don't know that that's true, because if I was pro, I'd be lapping it up likewise.
Well, I can tell you it is, because that's how it feels to me, is that it's such like another bleeding heart liberal bleating on and trying to make a joke out of it because they didn't get their own way kind of thing. You know what I mean? And you think, oh, no, I don't... But
Geoff Norcott did get his own way.
It's on a range, isn't it, from embarrassing to irritating, I think. But that's personally, that's how I find it. But
fortunately, I have a thick skin being a Londoner. Well, okay, let's get to the star rating and cut to the chase. Do you want to go first? I'm
agonising over this one because I'll be honest with you, I mean, I didn't come away with it and think, oh, I hated it. It was the worst 28 minutes of my life that I've ever spent, and like things. Nor
should you have done.
And things like the editing and that is only heightened, I suppose, because of the fact that we're critiquing it, we're reviewing it. So you do, don't you? You want to look for things.
You go into that mode.
The sketchettes I found a bit irritating, as I say, and it just really annoyed me that it was the NHS sketch. Actually, I found my notes. The NHS sketch where Leanne played the doctor and his sister in the same sketch, and she was almost talking to herself, and I thought, that's just cheap. Come on, guys, like do a quick rewrite or something. And anyway, so I kind of felt that a bit. But yeah, I didn't come away hating Geoff Norcott. I didn't come away thinking that I didn't like his style or his material. He's quite listenable. He's very easy to listen to, I thought.
Oh, yeah. Easy on the ear.
Yeah. And for that reason, I thought a 3. I was
Okay.
I was going to go
Better than
middle
I
of the
would have
road,
thought.
and so 2.5, but I'd go 3 because I think it deserves a little bit more than that. What about you?
Well, I'm torn between 3.5 and 4. For some reason, it doesn't quite make a 4. But he's a real craftsman. I mean, I think if one was trying to learn to be a stand-up comic, he would be a very good one to sort of have a tape of him, not literally a tape, a digital recording, stop-start, and because his craft. I mean, he's quite humble in a way. And the way I interpret that, or the way I hear it, for instance, he'll start the next sentence. A couple of times he says "I," starting the next sentence, after what he must know, really, being so experienced, is going to be a huge laugh. And that sounds humble to me. It's like, oh, you laughed, that's nice. And of course he has to wait, otherwise he wouldn't be heard.
Yeah.
But he was going down a storm, there's no question of that, and there's nothing fake about that laughter, as far as I'm concerned. So he's storming that gig. I've got to decide, haven't I? It's nearly Christmas. 4 stars.
Yeah.
Because I would like to see him live. I think that'd be good fun. But he's got to be careful. I'm sure he's got it in mind. I suspect he doesn't need me to preach, but he can't spend the rest of his career talking about being right-leaning. I think it's because he's on the BBC and he wanted to make a thing of that.
Well, I don't know. We mentioned Ben Elton, and I mean, he's made a career out of being, left wing, hasn't he? I mean, there's a lot.
Well,
of
you can do it.
candidates.
I just think I suspect you might agree. Jeff Norcott will be underselling himself if he didn't get past that.
It's what I was. Perhaps what you're saying is a time with what I was going to say, which was I'd like to see him with different writers.
Okay.
Like try him out with different writers, like in a series of 6 maybe. And so,
Who's his own main writer, we should say. It's
Yeah.
only the additional material written by Stephen Grant and Barry Castaneda.
yeah, but if you, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very often, if you team people up with a writer and they're a performer writer, they get a lot out of that relationship. And I think if you got the right relationship with a writer, I think maybe it would really strengthen his material. I think maybe.
Yeah, good point.
But
Good point.
he seems like a really nice guy as well.
Yeah.
But what did you say? So was it 7 out of 10? You gave him a 4.
I did, yes.
And I gave him a 3.
So,
Yes, 7 out of 10. It was a pretty
That's good, isn't it?
respectable score for
is.
Geoff Norcott, right-leaning but well-meaning.
And you'll find that on BBC Sounds. So it is that time where, with trepidation, I, as the pupil, have to await you, the headmaster, to give me my homework for next week.
It's like an episode of... What was that programme that used to run in the 70s where David Carradine was being taught by a Tibetan monk? Was it Kung Fu?
Kung Fu, yeah. Kung Fu was big in the 70s.
Wow, it's massive.
Kung
in
Fu
fact,
fighting
you
was
couldn't
a
go
hit
anywhere
record,
without
wasn't it?
2 halves of a ping pong ball to pop.
I'm sorry?
To pop into your eyes to do.
I could see you doing that.
I was only
Little kid down
7.
there.
I mean, give me a break.
Give me a break. Yeah, I'd love to comedy slab you as a 7-year-old. Well, young man, if you have to rely on props like ping pong balls, everyone's doing it. I'm tired of it. Frankly, I've seen Kung Fu till it comes out my ears. Young man.
We'll have no more Kung Fu in this house, thank you. If you want a Kung Fu, do it outside.
Is it rhyming slang?
Yeah, I've got to pick. Do you know what? I wanted to pick something that it was like a mystery box because it's coming up to Christmas. I thought it'd be nice if we could have like a selection box where neither of us
Have you taken the toffees out though, like Quality Street, to save money?
I did. It's work of the
Actually,
devil.
yeah.
But when neither of us has sampled the wares, I don't think you have anyway. And I chose something that I kept seeing trails for on the TV. And I thought, do you know what? I think we're going to have to get that on the old slab. And it's a programme called Zapped. Have you come across it? Are you aware of it?
I'm not. No, Zapped. Zapped, I'm assuming. Conventional spelling?
It is, yes, as I have been zapped.
Right.
And it's basically about this guy, and from what I can gather, because I'm not massively up to speed with, what it is, other than it's a James Buckley vehicle. If you don't know who James Buckley is, he was one of the in-betweeners. And in fact, he does the one of the betting adverts as well, where he's in like an Iron Man suit. I don't know if you've seen that one. He's probably making a few quid out of that. But he plays a character called Brian Weaver, who gets, I think, zapped back in time. I think as the reference to the title suggests.
Okay.
I'd like to have a look at that one for the next Comedy Slab, if you could. Can we do that?
Yeah, where am I going to find it? Do we know?
We can find it's out there on the ether. It's
Digital ether.
It's actually on UK TV. I think is the channel that it's on.
Okay.
But they're also showing it on one of the Freeview channels. I don't know. Tell you what, I'll get all the details for the next episode of the Slab, and we'll get it all sorted out and ship shape and Bristol fashion. Actually, if I click this link here, you can watch. Oh no, it won't work. Yeah, I'll do it next week.
I have a sense you're furiously looking something up as you speak.
Yeah.
But while he does that, or you might want to carry on, see if you get any joy, I will mention our social media. We are at Comedy Slab on Twitter and Facebook. Please like us at Facebook, follow us at Twitter. That'd be wonderful. And you can make your own suggestions, of course, anytime, as to what comedy show you think we should slabadize. We are on numerous... Is that a thing? It is now. We're on numerous platforms, more numerous than, what is it, Harry Potter's platform 9 3/4. We are on Spreaker. Well, that's the core audio one. We're also at YouTube if you want some sort of gliding pictures. And all points east. Apple Podcasts or iTunes, call it what you will. iHeartRadio, prompt.
What have you done already?
You are looking something up.
I would have done.
I should know this by now. Oh, darn!
If you just do Spreaker, that's the important
yeah,
one.
Spreaker. Yeah. Wait, look, just search Comedy Slab. We've got a wonderfully unique name. So far, till someone nicks it.
And you can find us with that as well on Facebook and Twitter, which we're gonna keep hold of. And even if they nick the name, they'll have to fight us for the YouTube and Twitter.
We can make some money out of that. I know some people who made some money from Banksy because he wanted to call a work of art a work of art by a name that they had called their rock and roll band. Strange but true. Oh, right. So don't forget to subscribe and all of that stuff. Thank you very much for your listening time and pleasure. Keep enjoying the comedy, and you haven't found it, have you? I've been furiously filling in vain.
We'll do it next week, can't we? There's plenty of time next week. We'll all be fresh.
Yeah, exactly. Well, speak for yourself. Okay. So I have been left-leaning and well-mean, and he's been centrist or right. I don't know.
I've been
make your own mind up.
Right-leaning
we're
and
apolitical.
occasionally screaming.
Goodbye.